You need the bad to appreciate the good.
If you walk left for a little bit, you can realize that actually I've gone the wrong way, and you can quickly turn around and go right.
The cost of action is always better than the cost of inaction.
Most of the time, a lot of people lose that vision and they get sort of 10 years down the line and just end up buying themselves a low paid job.
It's not how hard you can get hit and fall down, it's how hard you can get hit, fall down and get back up.
I don't want them to go and focus on getting them on board as a client. I want them to go and focus on what can we do to help them become as successful as they can be.
Welcome to the podcast From Cold to Close. My name is Saeed and I'm the founder here at SRC Growth Partner, a company that works with professional services firms from around the world to help them increase their revenue and profitability by acquiring new clients. My guest today is Mitch Hahn. Mitch is the CEO of Nordens, a UK accountancy practice based in London. Mitch joined the firm in its early days and has been instrumental in its phenomenal growth. From helping to write the first chapter of Nordens' story, he's risen to the current position of CEO, rising in the ranks, overseeing business development with a role that focuses on introducing and nurturing new clients and helping businesses grow and navigate through any issues they may be facing with specific strategic advisory. There's all loads of really nice words there I've added. But Mitch, it's been a pleasure to speak with you and a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
No, thank you for inviting me on. It's always really nice when someone else introduces you like that. I could not introduce myself anywhere near as good as that. Yeah, brilliant.
I'll take that.
Thank you for having me on. Really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to having a good chat with you, Saeed.
So am I. I'm really intrigued to hear some of the thoughts that you have, and just looking into you a little bit and speaking to you already. I know you've got some contrarian views and some interesting ideas, so I'm really looking forward to digging in, especially for the viewers and listeners today. But the best place I like to start every podcast is asking you to tell us a little bit about your journey to where you are, because you've risen through the ranks from starting early to now being a CEO, and there's lots of people out there that go, oh, how has he done that? Or maybe what kind of journey does that look like for someone that might be early on in their career or things like that? Yeah.
Okay, where I don't know if I can remember that far back anymore. Yeah, so I mean, interestingly, my background's probably slightly different to a lot of other accountants. My background's actually came from professional football. So at 16, I left school and I went and signed for Bolton Wanderers up north. I lived away from home. Hated every single minute of it. I mean, I was quite a sort of homely person. So living away with a family that I didn't really know and a few of the other players, it was really tough. So a year went down the line and I ended up signing professional at Southend United, which was much closer to home, and I could drive and I could my mum and dad drove me in every day until I could drive. But yeah, so I ended up playing there for a while, and sort of as time went on, obviously I wasn't good enough, otherwise I would have made it. Probably more mentally than actual sort of technically, ability-wise, but which is why I'm so into psychology now. But yeah, I still played semi-professional, but I ended up sort of floating in the semi-professional leagues, which they take just as seriously as professional football, and
Yeah.
clubs still pay and things like that. But up until sort of 28 years old, I thought I was going to be a Premier League footballer still. I kept reading stories about Ian Wright and all these top players that kind of went back down and then came back up. And it was always the dream. 36 years old now, and I still think I'm going to make it. After watching Tottenham last night, there's every chance. But yeah, and I kind of ended up sort of out of contract and looking for work and just looking for jobs online. And I'll be honest, it could have been anything.
Yeah.
And I ended up, a guy called Mark Norden came across my CV, which was, my CV was a mess. I think Mark is one of those people that sees opportunity and gives everyone an opportunity. So at the time, it was just Mark and his dog, his border collie Nick, in a little office in South Woodford, and I went for an interview and he offered me the job basically. And which was, I mean, I couldn't believe it, and I kind of went then hoping that I didn't get the job.
Yeah.
So he offered me the job, but he said I had to study, which was interesting because I hated study and it was something I never thought I'd sort of have to do again after school. So I went with it, I followed it. He was very, very good at letting me leave early to play football still and so on, because he obviously knew that was my passion and still is. And I just I was a bit of a nightmare. I got stuck. I went through a lot of mental health issues when I was sort of 18, 19, because it was, all my friends were still playing football and I was in an office. My whole life and my whole childhood was all about, I'm going to become a professional footballer, I'm going to do this. And when it comes crashing down, you get lost. So I found it really, really difficult. And, I was drinking, I was out. I think there was times where I would go out after work into town and I'd just come straight into the office the next morning. Listen, going back, I thought they were fun at the time, but you look back, I was going through a lot, and it was more to hide the fact that I was mentally struggling. But the office would get a call and they would ask for me, saying that they spoke to me last night and we're looking for an accountant and I'd like to.
No way.
Yes, oh God, I can't even remember, but
Still getting business, right? Wow.
but that was, and I think then, I'm going to cut a long story short, because I did study up to a certain point, and I did work up to a certain point. I got experience we were so small that I was doing payroll, VAT, I was doing all the compliance things back then. But my strength was speaking with people, helping people, and actually the reason why I was helping people was because I needed help myself, to be honest with you. So I think it was sort of like my subconscious nature trying to help people. So I ended up in these conversations, and we just used to pick up lots of business. And Mark kind of pushed me towards that side of things, which was sort of understanding what we do, but actually going out and shouting about what we do. Yeah. And that's and I used to enjoy it. And then, we just kind of grew from there, really. And we brought in teams of people, 3 of which are still, most are still with us, but 3 are co-owning it with me now. Here we are, 75 people later, when it was just sort of 2 or 3 of us, and 2 or 3 acquisitions we've done in the past. And we've got a great team. We've got 2 offices, one in central London, one in Woodford, and I'm leading it.
Wow.
Which has been a journey in itself, Saeed, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's a mental journey, and there's so many things you said there that I want to touch on. I think we're a growth podcast, right? We like to talk about growth mindset, growth, growing organizations, growing everything, right? And from what I heard there, everything you said in terms of, one of the big things I heard was you kept on saying mental, right? Your mind. And often, a lot of the things we do, we put obstacles in us in our own ways through our mind. And just by being able to lean into what we do well and then absolutely utilizing it. So you said your background in football, obviously you're in the surrounding where you think you know what you're going to be, right? For such a long time. And one of the biggest advantages I always find in anyone's life is the earlier you know what you're going to be, the bigger advantage you have. If you're 16 and you know you're going to be something like a lawyer, everything that you do is down that direction. If it's a footballer, everything. So then that coming crashing down and you having to reinvent yourself and finding a way, that is a tough period. My background personally was, I started off my career in an accounting firm, right? And it was in a top 10 firm. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be partner. That's what I want to do. I want to get to the top. And then I was like, I'm good at being with people, speaking to people. I wanted to be with clients. But the technical side of things, it was never my strength. I'd do exams, I'd be told I have to do exams. I passed them, fail one, pass them, fail one, get through. But then I found that I don't like the account stuff. I like talking to people and having conversations with people and building businesses and bringing in business. And so I went out in my own direction and started my own business. And so I think it's such an interesting thing where you've also, and Mark noticed this about you, is that going, okay, you can do your exams, but leaning into something that you're already good with, is where the competitive advantage comes from you, right? In terms of then your journey and everything you've done and like your background in football, what do you think has been the biggest thing that you've learned to be able to get to where you are today? What's your biggest lesson?
As I was saying to you before we kind of went live on this, the psychology aspect of sport, I think, is extremely similar, if not the same, as sort of psychology in business. And I think one of the most lessons I've learned are the psychology within sport over the years. So it was more the case of, okay, what managers have managed to get the best out of me? What managers made me feel really low? What's, when you come on and then get subbed off, what does that do to you mentally? How do you bounce back? What happens if someone, the fans are calling you all sorts of names? I appreciate you don't get that in business all the time. The same thing as, someone basically saying that's not good enough, you need to do better. What happens when you get released? Where do you, things like that. But, I've played for managers. I've watched changing rooms where they've just completely lost the dressing room and players have gone in themselves and lost and got relegated. And I've played for managers that where we've won leagues, and I've seen sort of how, and they're not the most technical people in the world, but they know how to motivate and they know how to make people love what they do. And then when someone loves what they do, then,
Tell me more about that, because I'm a huge football fan. I'm a United fan personally.
Okay.
I know, tell me about it. The last 10
Don't worry,
years.
I'm Spurs, so
Yeah, exactly. We're in the same boat at the moment. We're competing for where we are in the league. So the way
you don't sound like you're from Manchester, though.
No, I know, I know. I'm one of the local ones in London, right? Yeah, typical. I used to be called a glory hunter until 10 years ago,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, no, so in terms of like what I've seen, especially just being a United fan, you see the different managers. There's a lot of revisionism that comes about now with the recent managers that we've had. And then you got like Solskjaer, who's now looked at as, wow, he did a phenomenal job. But Mourinho, who's like, oh, this was one of my greatest achievements doing that and motivating. Obviously, that permeates through different levels of football, whether it's at Bolton Wanderers, whether it's at Southend. What are the typical things you see in a great leader, in a great manager who drives the dressing room, who wins the dressing room?
It's a good question. I think there's so many things, and I think that actually clear and simple plan is key. I think that so many people can overcomplicate things, putting the right people in the right places, and also, making people feel that they're invincible.
Yeah. Wow.
And I think that any changing room where I've won something, the manager hasn't necessarily been the most technical person in the world. Well, in his head, they possibly are, but the way it's delivered is simple, clear instructions, but making you feel invincible, and like things like pulling you aside and just having quick chats with you, making you feel motivated to go and play. And just when you feel like that, you feel like you can do anything, and then your confidence goes through the roof and things like that. And I think actually everyone's different. I think it's, I know we're focusing on sport, but it's the same in business as well. You need to learn about characters, and you need to learn what motivates people. You need to learn how you're going to make each person feel invincible, because everyone's different. So I think it's understanding that as well. And that's something that I really love, is the psychology. And it's more the case of, okay, everyone at Nordens, 75 people, I like to get to know them personally, know what they're into, know what motivates them, and know what they're doing it for.
Yeah.
Because we have a clear purpose as a firm, and it's like, do you fit into that? Do you love what you do? Because you're changing people's lives here. But I do think it's the making people feel invincible. I think and it's not easy, because there's not many people that can do it. But, you go and look at, I'll tell you who was exceptional at it, and is probably Jurgen Klopp. And he was like, I appreciate he's probably super technical, but that you could tell that he just made his players feel incredible.
Yeah, I remember I was desperate for Klopp before he went to Liverpool, and then I had to hate him. It's hard to hate a guy that's for a rival. So I recently watched a clip of an ex-professional footballer, right? And he was talking about what's the difference between professional footballers, the ones that make it at the very top, and the ones that don't. And he said it was decision making, right? At the highest level, the mentality of making the right decisions at the right time consistently, more than the other people achieving to the top. And I wanted to kind of pull that back into the business layer, right? Because business layer is step by step a decision that needs to be made, constantly evolving. And so how do you see that level of decision making translating from elite level sport or even high level sport to business, and what are the lessons that can be taken into business?
So one of the things that I've seen over the years is not so much the decision making, it's the lack of decision making.
Perfect.
And I think that what you find is there's so many things on so many routes that business owners can go, but what they tend to do is nothing.
Yeah.
Or they take too long to make a decision, and by the time the decision's made, it's gone.
Yeah.
So I think the most successful businesses, and I think, I won't say like we're the most successful business, but one thing that we're good at is making a decision. And so many people probably disagree with me, but I don't think people need to worry so much about the right or wrong decision.
100% agree. 100%.
I think, if you get to crossroads and you don't know whether to go left or right, and you stand there for hours thinking, where do I go? You're going to be stuck, right? And you're going to waste loads of time. But actually, if you walk left for a little bit, you can realize that actually I've gone the wrong way, and you can quickly turn around and go right. So I think decision making, I see a lot of successful businesses are quick at making decisions, and they adapt if they make the wrong one quickly.
Yeah. I love that. I absolutely love that. Especially like there's those sayings of fail fast, or the cost of action is always better than the cost of inaction. Like not doing anything actually costs you more, whether it's financially, whether it's time, whether it's
Do you know what
mistakes.
I've said? Said sometimes a decision might be to do nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, but
So
you've
that's
made the
fine.
decision,
Yeah,
right? You've
exactly.
made the decision. No, we're not going to do anything now. That's fine. It's what you said there. It's spot on. It's like a lot of people just procrastinate from making a decision rather than making that decision. Procrastinate from making that decision, so they do nothing and go, "Oh well, I'll get to it," or "I'll make that decision," or "We'll get to it next quarter," or this or that. Right? You push it back. And that's the same as doing nothing, but you've not made that active decision to do nothing, right?
But I think people are scared to make, sometimes get a bit scared to make decisions, like you say, procrastinate on it. But sometimes you don't need to be the person to make the decision. You just need to implement it. I surround myself with a lot of good people that have been in business for years, or a lot of good people that I really trust. And I'll always run things by them if I'm sort of not sure. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I don't procrastinate on anything. Like, but decisions, of course. But fortunately, I've got 3 or 4 other directors that are sort of they're completely different to me. They see things from a complete different aspect of life, really. But ultimately, I've got people that aren't involved in what we do, and I'll run things by them, and I'll say, "What do you think we should do?" And I'll use their input to help me make a decision, which really helps because then you feel like you're not on your own. And I appreciate, and one of the reasons we do what we do is because business owners feel lonely sometimes. When you're running a business on your own, you've got no one to sort of bounce off. Then you think, well, those people don't really understand my industry. They don't know what we do. But that's why I guess we do what we do and love what we do, because we're that support for them where they go, I need to make a decision. Can you help me? And we kind of calculate it for them and help them make a decision without them sort of feeling anxious about it.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Talk to me more about that in terms of when a client comes to you and you're obviously seen as a trusted advisor, right? You've got an important role in, like, I can tell you from my relationship with my accountant, like, I literally will, like, if I need something, I'll be like, pick up the phone, drop him an email, just be comfortable with that, right? But I can tell you right now, I've had accountants before that the relationship is not like that, right? You're just another number. And that's the worst thing you can feel like as a business owner, right? So talk to me about that and how you approach business development, client relationships, that type of things.
Yeah, I mean, we've always been a kind of ahead of it. I mean, when I first joined Mark years and years ago, Mark always said to me, and I still say it to everyone else, although I pretend that it's my saying, not his, but which is people go to their accountants for business support and get accountancy support in return. And it's one thing that we've tried to stay away from. Listen, I appreciate that, there is an element of compliance that needs to be done. You need to do your accounts, you need to do payroll, you need to do VAT, you need to pay tax, you need to do your tax return. It has to be done, right? It has to be done. But as technologies come in, those things have become more streamlined and easier to be able to do. They still need to be done and they will be done. But ultimately, the value is sort of what you do with that information. So, we've got advisors that have been working with businesses for years and years and years, and they see sort of the industry and they basically can make decisions off the back of looking at numbers and also liaising with the client to actually sit down with them and say, right, you're in business. Why are you doing this? What have you done? What are you trying to achieve here? Because if you set it up originally to try and achieve something,
Yeah.
but most of the time, a lot of people lose that vision and they get sort of 10 years down the line and just end up buying themselves a low paid job. And if you ask them why they're doing it, it's like to make money. And it's like, no, 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 no. You didn't just set it up to make money.
Yeah.
Let's rewind back to when you first set it up. What's the purpose? So if you can try and sort of mix that with the numbers element, you can really sort of put together a roadmap to help a client achieve something. I think where business owners go wrong is that we don't really work so much with them anymore, but there's people that think, my dad is one of them. Do you know what? My dad always used to say to me, why do you want to be an accountant? It's basically like buying tires for your car. Everyone needs to have them, but no one wants them.
Yeah,
No one wants to
exactly.
do it, but everyone needs to do it.
Love it.
And yeah, that's his sort of experience of working with accountants. But I think now, more so than ever, the world's being educated on how accountants can actually help them achieve. And, we've got some great success stories with clients, sort of taking them from start to finish, providing them sort of advisory as they go. But, they're prepared to invest in working with a partner effectively to be able to do it. But yeah, we try and take that approach more. It's like, great, we're doing all your accounts, we're doing all your bookkeeping, we're doing your VAT, we're doing this, but what are you doing with this information? You can literally get up-to-date, great information, make key decisions, put together some great growth forecasts and great growth planning, Now let's merge the two together and then make you accountable for it every quarter, every month. Because you know what to do. You just need someone to go, right, what's the next step? What's the next step?
100%.
Yeah.
Especially just putting the two pieces together and often just marrying them together, you can show them the light, right? You can help them. But a lot of the time, people need accountability. That's one of the hardest things in any form, whether that's waking up and going to training every single day, whether that's going to the gym every single day, whether that's going to work every single day, especially now with remote working and things like that, and actually showing up at work and showing up for clients and things like that. You need to be consistent, and that's why people get personal trainers, right? And I always say, if tennis players are some of the best athletes out there, right? Like they are, and it's an individual sport, they are on their own on that court. But even the best tennis players, even Roger Federer, even Rafael Nadal, they need a tennis coach, right? They need someone to tell them, no, you're doing this wrong, you're stepping wrong here, you're going overextending, you're doing this, you're doing that. And so I think that plays in again to the psychology of sport as well as business as well. In terms of then, I want to talk to you a little bit about something a little bit topical at the moment, and that's AI and technology in every...
If I hear that word again,
Yeah.
AI, well, those two letters.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Every single podcast we touch on AI, and that's simply because it's so topical. Everyone wants to know what's going, how it's going to affect their industry, and who better to ask than an accountant who has worked with businesses in different industries, but also know about their own industry and things like that. And it might be that there's nothing going on at the moment. It's too early. Like only 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, ChatGPT came out, right? But it seems to be the thing that's dominating YouTube. It's dominating your social media feeds. Everyone's talking about AI. So what's your opinion on AI? Where do you think it's going? Is it going anywhere? Where is it now?
I get probably 15 emails a day from random companies or people basically saying, we can build AI for you, we can do this, but what is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, artificial intelligence is a lot.
Yeah.
It can be anything you want it to be, right? In anything that's really sort of, there's a lot of data input in and analyzing data, I think AI will play a big part, obviously. I mean, it could go as far as taking over everything if you really wanted to go. I read that in Germany, they're using AI robots to build a house.
Wow.
So it's like, you know, and then originally it was labour work won't actually be taken over by AI, but actually
You're seeing
you
that.
draw up the plans on a, yeah, you draw, it's like the old things in school where you used to put a floppy disk in, I'm showing my age now, or a CD in, and then the graphics machine would just build or cut and do all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah, interestingly, in our industry, there's a lot of it at the minute, a lot of talk of it, how to use AI and stuff like that. But I think it's too early, personally. I think that, you know, it costs a lot of money. We went and explored sort of the level of fee. We found a great person who builds AI. It took me ages to find them because they're all sort of taken up by the big firms. And found someone. It costs a lot of money. You go and build your own, anything you want to do, it will cost you a fortune, which is fine. But we work with, and the industry that we work with is dominated by tech companies, you know, your Xeros, your Iris, your QuickBooks and all that sort of stuff. They're, what, billions? Hundreds of millions at least worldwide. They're all going to bring in AI themselves. So for me, it's going to go one of two ways. Either they're going to go and try and do everything an accountant does, which is why accountants need to provide high value in advisory and be a trusted advisor rather than just compliance. Or they're going to work with accountants to be able to make accountants' lives easier to be able to sort of carry on. They're going to more go from sort of B2B rather than B2C.
Sure.
I don't know. Personally, I think that they will go B2B. I think they will help us, but I think it's far too early. And I think these companies will bring in AI, and I think accountants will naturally, the industry will naturally pick it up from working with these. I mean, there's already, I think Silverfin already use AI. I could be wrong. I don't know I don't want to name drop them if they don't, but I think they already use it. But I think it's far too early. I think ChatGPT and Grok and things like that, they're generalized, aren't they? Like anyone can use them for anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but I think industry specific.
I think it's really interesting. I've heard that things like QuickBooks, they're trying to add in an AI element to it to make, like, I don't know, receipts more simple. I don't know what it is, but you're right in the sense that it could go in two ways. It can go B2B or B2C. If you want to be taking the more cynical route and go, okay, all these big corporations they want more business, they want more market share, they'll go into that B2C and take over what accountants do. But I think accountants are humanizing the industry, right? It's about, although you have computers ledgers doing everything. Once upon a time, everyone had to use ledgers to make
Yeah.
accounts, right? Now you got computers, but people still need accountants, right? And they still need to talk to an accountant, to speak to someone that they trust, right? And so I feel like you're
Then
right.
the internet came.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But I agree with you. I agree. I think that it will just change the dynamic slightly. I think no one should panic. And I think the people that embrace it and use it to their advantage will carry on and will do well. I think you've still got accountancy firms that aren't even using bookkeeping packages. They're still not, so there's the industry's miles behind.
yeah,
But, I think it's great I think like ChatGPT is great for like actually reading
yes.
legislation, and rather than reading a 500-page document on legislation, you put it in, it summarizes it. Great. I think we're way away from it actually sort of taking over or doing anything drastic.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I would say that a lot of the podcasts and conversations I've had, a lot of people are saying, especially in those that are in a more service-based industry, that are more business development, more people facing, more trusted advisory, it seems like a long way to be able to interfere with business in any way.
I was going to say, humans, they tend to go from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
And then meet in the middle.
Yes, exactly.
That's what tends to happen. So what will happen is what's happening now is everyone's going to go on this mad sort of agenda of AI is going to take over, AI is doing this, use AI for everything, use it, it will take over everything. You don't need any staff, you just use AI.
Yeah.
And actually, some people will go and do that.
Yeah.
But majority will just sort of come back to the middle, and everyone in 10 years' time are going to be like, what? Imagine, do you remember when there wasn't any AI? What a great invention.
Oh yeah, that actually reminds me of a conversation I had with. He was a former TEDx speaker on one of our podcasts. He does HR consulting as a consulting firm. He was talking about how AI is a digital psychopath, right? So it poses all the symptoms of what a psychopath would do, and it often, when you put information into AI, ask it, it will often also lie to give you the results that you're looking for. So it's not even at a point where you're getting factual, accurate answers. And he's just like, well, you can use it, you can utilize it, but you still have to fact check it. You still have to
100%.
put someone behind the wheel who actually knows what they're talking about, that can go, no, that's wrong, that's not right, let's look into that, why is that saying that, etc., etc. So I think that's a really interesting point, because it lines up with a lot of what you're saying anyways. Talk to me more about the budget. Obviously this is also very topical, and in the UK, just like how in the US there's the tariffs being a topical thing, in the UK we got a budget that was considered or marketed as the growth budget or a growth budget. A lot of business owners will say far from it. Talk to me, what are your opinions as an accountant in the UK? What are your opinions on the budget? And I appreciate that's a very big, broad question.
I promised myself I would never talk about politics or anything like that. But I know it's slightly not politics, but this could go in and end up talking about.
Sure.
But if I do carry on, stop me, because, well, where do I start? I mean, I don't like what's going on. I mean, everyone's talking about sort of, the reason they're increasing taxes is because of the £22 billion hole and war and things like that. I don't like war. I appreciate it has to happen sometimes, but I don't like it. And this 22 billion, I'm yet to see anything that actually proves there is that. But what do I know? I can only compare it to being in different parts of the world, i.e. Dubai and things like that, where you see the fastest growing economy on the planet, and their tax system is completely different and completely unique, and it's proven that it works because it's fast growing. We're in a world at the minute in the UK where it's not a growth mindset whatsoever. And that upsets me because I like growth. I think it's important to grow. When you grow as a person, you grow mentally. And I think people, we're not here for a long time. And I think people should enjoy the time that they're here. And I think times are becoming extremely difficult. So I don't like the fact that, I hope they change stuff. I don't like the whole capital gains situation. I think we should be looking to work with entrepreneurs to build and employ. I think you create jobs and things like that. The employer's national insurance.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a hard-hitting one for businesses.
I mean, yeah.
How has that affected you? How has that affected Nordens, for example?
Well, financially, it's going to kill us. You've got, effectively, it's going to potentially cost us near on 100 grand right, a year, which we never really budgeted for before the budget.
Yeah.
But that was only going to employing people and giving people pay rises and giving people, it was only putting back into the business. It wasn't, we weren't taking it. You know, it's the business's money. It hurts because, and it doesn't just hurt, it hurts 75 people. And then what? Then we have to potentially put our prices up to then make sure that we can look after our people. And then all of a sudden, everyone else is putting their prices up. And all of a sudden, you're creating inflation. I mean, I'm not an economist. I'm far from it. But I don't agree, or I don't like what they're doing, but I don't know enough about it to know whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know, yeah, I don't like the capital gains. Inheritance tax is a disgraceful tax. I think, you know, I have read that they're debating putting the income tax threshold up to 20,000 from 13, and I think that will be some kind of, you know what happened? We'll get to the next election or close to the next election and they'll reduce it all.
Yeah.
Reduce all the taxes. That's what will happen. So I think a lot of business owners I'm speaking to are just trying to get through the next few years to then see what happens. But hearing, you know, I know so many people that have moved out to Dubai.
Yeah.
Set up their businesses out there, employing people out there, paying minimal tax, but putting all their money back and spending their money into the economy.
Absolutely. And I'd be lying if I didn't say that's a consideration for me and a lot of my network as well. Like Dubai itself, it poses as there's a lot of benefits to it in terms of lifestyle, in terms of so many different aspects, but also it poses as like that tax side of things. Like everyone's happy to put in if they see something coming out of it, right?
Exactly.
But the problem with the UK right now is that you go around and you're not seeing where your money's going. And so people are feeling resentful for the fact that things are not happening the way you want it. And only 10 years ago, I would say I loved London 10 years ago, mate. It was a great place to be. And in that span of 10 years, it's just deteriorated. And that's going to be around the country as well. Obviously, as you mentioned, don't want to lean too much into politics.
It does make me anxious though. I do sort of scroll through sometimes like social media or X and I kind of look online because I wouldn't if I didn't have to because people ask me. And it does make me anxious. I see stuff of Rachel Reeves is going to do this and next she's coming for ISAs and next she's coming for premium bonds. And I'm like, when's it going to stop? And if I'm feeling anxious, I would imagine lots of people are feeling anxious about it. And, you know, if my other half would leave the country, I'd probably go.
Yeah, I know the feeling. That's Mrs. is the one that I have to convince. Yeah. So, Mitch, this section of the podcast we like to call the Entrepreneur's Room. And it's a series of questions that we ask all of our guests.
Let me ask you a question just before we go into it. Define entrepreneur.
I love it. An entrepreneur is someone that brings people together to grow a business, right? That's a great question, actually. An entrepreneur is someone who solves a problem and focuses on solving that problem, whether they are the way to solve that problem or not. So whether that's bringing people together to solve a problem, and whether it's a business, you create a product, whatever it is, an entrepreneur is someone that's trying to solve a problem and create a business.
So would you say that Deliveroo was a problem?
That's another great question. No, so Deliveroo, well, I guess it's a problem that we didn't know was a problem.
So I loved asking that question.
That's
because
a great question. I've never been asked that question.
Because it's like, you know, someone would call me an entrepreneur. I wouldn't call myself an entrepreneur because I can't define what an entrepreneur is. I don't know. I mean, I think there's so many different things. Yes, it's someone who creatively solves a problem, brings people together to solve a problem. Or is it someone who creates something that, like Uber, or because Uber wasn't a problem. You could walk down the road and get a cab, but Uber is something creative that's changed the world.
Yeah, it's a great point.
But I always... The word entrepreneur gets thrown out, just like the word proactive, that an entrepreneur gets thrown out so much. And I was just interested to know how you defined entrepreneur.
Yeah, I thought I knew what it meant until you asked me that question. I'm just like, oh, wait a second. You're right. For someone that maybe solves a problem, creates a convenience in the world, or changes the world. It could be anything. It could be very much anything. I love it. Food for thought, actually, not just for me, for the viewers and listeners as well. So this section we call the Entrepreneur's Room, and it's a series of questions we like to ask all of our guests so that the viewers and listeners have an opportunity to understand how a business leader I won't say entrepreneur, business leader. And so the first question I'd like to ask in this section is, how are you currently spending your days in the business?
They change every day. One thing I make sure I do is every morning 10:15 we do a client success huddle, which is the growth team, and we sit down and we talk about sort of how we're growing a business and how we're new clients that are coming on board, and talk about them, talk about sort of the marketing, they see what's going on, because I think that's really important. I think for me, if you're not growing, you're going backwards. So we do that. And then my day will depend. I'll have meetings, every Wednesday we'll have an executive board meeting bi-weekly, and then the directors meeting the following week. And then, it will change. I will go to the gym at one point during the day. Yeah. That is a must. Yeah. If I don't get out to the gym for an hour and a half, that goes into my day no matter what.
Love it.
But sometimes with clients, sometimes with the teams, sometimes just sort of pulling strings, making people accountable and things like that. Firefighting, problem solving, dealing with problems as they come, fixing. I mean, it's very difficult to go from a growth mindset to a problem solving mindset, because they're two different things, and you need to be you need to be able to be a little bit bipolar, I think, to actually go, right, let's put this problem solving and firefighting mindset to then. So my days, they change, honestly. Sometimes my calendar will be free, which is how I love it.
Yeah. Tell me
about when my calendar's free, I know things are going okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when my calendar's free, it'll just be catching up with the relative departments to ensure that
things are ticking along,
things are working, and coming up with ideas to improve and things like that.
Yeah, love it. And I love the fact that you said that businesses are a lot like being bipolar, especially when it's like problem solving and then growth mind. No, I won't quote you on that, but it's brilliant though, because I think it is true. It's a different part of the brain that has to activate to kind of go, okay, I can't think about this. I have to deal with this. It's completely different, and
it's difficult.
It's hard. It is very hard, but it's necessary. Tiring.
But you get home, when I get home, I'm like, 6, 7 o'clock, and some days you're just tired, because not so much you haven't necessarily, it's not physically tired.
Yeah, it's mentally draining, right?
Because you're having to go to different parts of your brain, and for me, I know that some things I'm better at than others, and the ones that I'm not good with detail. I hate detail. Same. I like headline. Yeah. Give me detail, I'll zone out, and exactly.
I know.
So when I have to deal with detail, it makes me tired.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
The missus for me, she's the detail oriented. I'm like vision, so it's like we work well together.
One thing I do though, I wake up at 6:30 every morning, and 30 minutes I go on Duolingo. But I feel like one, I'm learning something.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And two, it gets my mind ready.
Yeah.
For the day, or I'll read a few pages of a book.
That's a good way to start. I try and do that at the end of the day, reading before I go to sleep. Usually it puts me to sleep.
Yeah.
No, I do love a read, as you can see back there.
I can see.
Yeah. In terms of then, as a leader, metrics are very important, and you touched on like looking at certain things. What are the most important metrics for you when you're running your business?
I mean, it's two things, right? Business needs certain metrics. We need to look at certain metrics for it to run, for us to pay salaries, for us to keep people employed, and to be able to service our clients. So there's those metrics, which are the obvious, right? Which are the turnover, profit, cash, growth.
Yeah.
They're the key metrics that I think any business will look at. Mm-hmm. Then, as the business has got bigger, key metrics for me are also focused around culture and making sure that we train people and service clients to how we promise to. So our branding book metrics, which are telling stories about how we're servicing clients, and our brand champions and things like that, they're key metrics for me.
Yeah.
Because it shows me that we're passionate about what we're doing and we're delivering. So or testimonials are a great metric, and I think it's important to factor those in. I think I've been guilty, and I'm sure you have, and I'm sure anyone listening has, just guilty of just focusing on turnover, profit, cash,
100%.
and growth. But I think in order to get to those metrics, you have to break it down into the actual delivery and, testimonials. And like I said, we do something with branding book entries and so on. So, yeah.
Makes sense. It's always important to be looking at not just top line, not just that, but the other elements that help drive the business, right?
Yeah, of course.
How are you currently growing your organization? Business development, marketing? What is it that you're doing? What is it that you're currently doing to grow the organization?
Delivering a great service. I think that's a key thing. I think that when you've got good people, we've got a great team. A lot of people have been with us for quite a number of years. So they've trained the Nordens way, which is a certain type of way. So it comes mainly from delivering a great service. We get a lot of referrals. We grow 25% year on year.
Oh, wow.
I think there's one year that we've done 23% or something like that. But yeah, it's multiple ways. providing a good service and getting referrals. We've done 3 acquisitions in the last sort of 10 years.
Wow.
We're not sort of, I mean, I get approached by private equity all the time to go on a mad acquisition hunt, but we'll do it every now and then. If something comes up and says, and we like it, then we'll do it. But ultimately, we've done 3. We did one a couple of years ago, so we're now to get a central London base, which has been good. But marketing as well. We don't put money behind Google. We have done in the past. I'm sure you're going to ask me a question about mistakes or things that haven't worked, which I'll go into. Yeah, and marketing's great, but loads of content, and we've got a great marketing director who came in, and brand identity. But our most growth, sorry, I forgot the biggest one, business development, client success. Business development, I call them client success now because their roles are to work with clients and potential clients to ensure that they're as successful as they can be. So if they're meeting a potential client, I don't want them to go and focus on getting them on board as a client. I want them to go and focus on what can we do to help them become as successful as they can be. And they'll naturally come on board as a client anyway. So if we're doing that, which is what, so yeah, but business development and referrals, mainly marketing plays a big part, but marketing plays a big part internally as well.
I can imagine. It makes a lot of sense. All the big points ticked off there. In terms of then your biggest lessons, obviously you've been in business now for many years. What have you tried before? What didn't work? And I guess you're going to probably touch on that Google.
Yeah. So basically, November 2019, I became CEO of the business because Mark wanted to step back as chairman, so I became CEO. March 2020, we were going to COVID.
Yeah.
Never run a business before.
Wow.
Never run a department, but never run like a whole firm.
Yeah.
And it becomes like, oh my God. I was doing a lot of research, and a lot of people said the first thing that people tend to do during times of uncertainty is cut their marketing budget. And I thought, being the person that I am, well, if everyone's cutting the marketing budget, let's double it, right? So what we did is we found someone who wasn't the right person. And we said, we want to go and create loads of webinars. We were doing daily webinars with all the new things that were coming in through COVID. We were getting a lot of our clients on, and I thought this must be an opportunity to go. No one else was doing the sort of the level of marketing that we were doing.
Yeah.
And he was like, put some money behind it. Let's advertise that you're doing these webinars and it will filter through clients and so on. But our marketing wasn't great. We wasn't set up. So if people found us, there was no funnel for them to come in. So we spent a lot of money on it. We were getting hundreds, thousands of signups to the webinar. And I was like, wow, I mean, this is unbelievable. Anyway, no one turned up.
No.
So we've spent all this money on people coming to the webinars. Thought, great, get them on the webinars, give them something. They'll want to use us. No one turned up, and it was a waste. But it wasn't a waste because now we've never learned so much. And if you look at us then to us now, and the marketing and our branding and what we are now to what we were, lessons like that. I mean, it was an expensive lesson to learn, but it was a great lesson to learn.
And you're still here now, so it's testament to, like, you've learned from it, you're there. Like, it's not killed you, right? So it's made you better. It's grown you as an organisation, as an individual as well from the learnings, right?
I didn't realise, I mean, this just shows that I didn't realise how much work goes into it, get to a point where you go, right, now we're ready to put money behind it. Like I said, I want to grow organically, maybe more than anything, but there's a lot of work that needs to go into it. It's not as easy as that's how ignorant I was at the time. I just didn't.
You're not the first. A lot of our partners, when we work with them, they always say, oh, isn't it as simple as just putting marketing dollars, marketing pounds behind it and just running with it? No, there needs to be a strategy. You need to look at different parts. Otherwise, you're just throwing money into a drain, essentially. And it's just, you're living proof that how that can happen in the nicest possible way, Mitch.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a difficult question to answer because things go wrong every day.
100%.
And I think it's difficult. I mean, that's probably a big thing. We restructured at one point like 7 years ago and it was a disaster. It was because we had the wrong people in the wrong seats, but it was a nightmare. It led to lots of clients leaving. It led to lots of people leaving. It led to a lot of culture, a big culture change in the office, which you learn from these things. I'm happy we went through it because I wouldn't know what I knew today, but things go wrong every day. And it's what we touched on before is how quick you can sort of adapt to it. So I don't mind things going wrong. In fact, it's just as important as things going wrong as it is things going right.
I couldn't agree more.
And I think so, I'll go through my whole day and tell you things that have gone wrong.
Yeah, I love it. I love
It's
it.
how quick you can make the decision to change.
It's that Rocky quote, isn't it? It's not how hard you can get hit and fall down. It's how hard you can get hit, fall down, and get back up, or something
So
along those
true.
lines. It's spot on.
But
And
it's in the bad, it's embracing the negativity as well. Like negativity is our perception of the word negative is negative, obviously. But actually, how many times, without positive, there'd be no negative. And without negative, there wouldn't be any positive. It's like we're loving this weather at the minute, the sun's out, but we wouldn't appreciate this
exactly,
if we didn't have the rain and the cold.
Yeah.
So you have to embrace both.
you need the bad to appreciate the good. Mitch, last question. If you had a magic wand you could wave to solve one business problem, what would that be?
I think it's an obvious one for most business owners, and it's probably cash flow.
Yeah.
I think cash flow and retention, there's nothing worse than clients leaving. I mean, we do get it. Like I said, it's how we improve our service as well. I'd love the fact that clients stay on forever, so you can make magic wand, and once they're on board, that's it. They're never going anywhere. But cash flow, I think, is massive. I think if you could have an unlimited cash, I mean, every business goes through cash flow. I won't say cash flow issues, but cash flow, being creative with your cash flow. I think, if I could solve one problem for any business, it would be cash flow and just making sure that everyone had a healthy cash balance in their bank to be able to do what they want to do.
Love it. Mitch, it's been an absolute pleasure. It's been a great conversation. For our viewers and listeners who would want to find you, where would they go? Where would they look?
LinkedIn's probably the best. I don't actually know my LinkedIn handle, to be honest.
Put it in the description. It will all be there.
Yeah, if anyone's listening wants to get in touch, just drop me a message on LinkedIn. I'm pretty good with it, providing it's not one of those spam ones that just, oh my God. You could do some of them for harassment.
100%. Yeah. I get it all the time. It's ridiculous. You get about 15, 20 a day. It's excessive now.
From the same person.
Yeah, from the same person.
There you go. That's how AI is doing what AI is doing.
Mitch,
spamming the market.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's been a really great conversation. I think that it's one of the more enjoyable conversations I've had, so really appreciate you sharing.
You say that to everyone.
No, I don't. I actually don't. If anyone's made it this far into the podcast, they'll know. But no, pleasure as always, and have a good one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Said.
Appreciate it.